Then, if someone meets you on the way or comes to your house and asks you to express what you think about IELTS test, what would you say? What do you think IELTS test is about? What's your perspective about the exam? What do you make of it?
I believe it is an exam to determine the level of language.
Your English proficiency. So, generally you are saying IELTS exam is just an English exam.
No, it's an English test to determine
your what? Your English proficiency. Is that?
proficiency.
It's an English exam then.
Okay, it's the same.
To determine how well you know the language. Is that correct? Okay. Now, if you go to write French exam, French or German, you are expected to find questions about German language or French language. Is that correct? Where you will be asked to talk about the letters of the language, the different sections like the vowel, the oral letters and sounds, the consonant letters and sounds. You would also be tested on the different parts of speech, the figures of speech, the sentence constructions, and passages, right? Okay. Do you think that's what you're going to find in IELTS? You hope so, right? Please don't hope so. No, don't hope. IELTS will not give you such. Have you heard that a lot of people fail IELTS? People fail IELTS, right? Good. And so many other persons pass IELTS, right? Those who fail IELTS are those who expect to see English. While those who pass IELTS are those who understand IELTS to be an intellectual exam written in English language. So they don't just ask you questions bordering around parts of speech, figures of speech, letters, vowels, consonants, paragraphs and all that. No, don't expect that. IELTS is testing your exposure in problem-solving skills. Your questions would have nothing to do with sentence constructions, compound sentence, and all that. No, don't expect that. That's not what you find. IELTS questions would come in the form of problems. You're going to be served breakfast as problems. So they would expect you to do what? To find, write and solve that problem within the time frame allotted for that particular task. So it tests your global exposure. Now, the IELTS question in Nigeria has nothing to do with Nigeria. It has nothing to do with Africa. It is an international kind of exam where you are being examined on your global exposure, your ability to solve global problems, your ability to realize or provide solutions to issues raised in the question. Please open your mind, prepare your mind. Don't hope for cheap questions. IELTS is not cheap. Right? So they want to see if you are the right candidate to go to their country. They are looking for people that will come and solve problems, not people that will bring problems. If you are bringing problems, stay back in your country. That's IELTS for you. Right? So this exam is basically testing your knowledge. It's testing your intellect. It's testing your exposure. So in IELTS, there are 4 testing areas. There are 4 testing areas of IELTS. We have the listening, we have the reading, we have the writing, and of course we have the speaking. Now the listening test lasts for 40 minutes. Then it has 40 questions. Each question carries a mark, and then there are 4 sections of the listening test. Okay? The reading test lasts for 60 minutes. Edition. Test lasts for 60 minutes. The reading test has 40 questions. The reading test respects the fact that each question carries a mark. And of course, there are 3 long passages. The writing test is divided or runs for 60 minutes. Within the 60 minutes, you're going to be given 2 activities called task 1 and task 2. Your task 1 lasts for 20 minutes, while task 2 lasts for 40 minutes. For task 1, you are required to write a minimum of 150 words, while your task 2 requires you to write a minimum of 250 words. The highest you can get from the task 1, if you are so brilliant, the highest rate percentage-wise you would get is 33.31%. Whereas for task 2, the highest you can get would be 66.69%. Then for the speaking test, it usually lasts for a period of 10 or to 15 minutes. And then it's divided into 3 parts. Right. So these are the 4 areas of the IELTS test. Have you decided on the type of the format of the IELTS test you would like to take? There are 2 formats. We have the paper-based, we have the computer-based. You prefer the paper, right? Fine. Now, for the paper-based test, you are going to take on these 3, listening, reading, and writing in one day, simultaneously, one after another. Right? So you're going to be sitting for almost 3 hours writing the IELTS test. The speaking test comes on a separate day. The speaking test comes on a separate day. Now, the listening, reading, and writing, you're going to be having the exam alongside several other test takers in the hall. Right? So you might be 100, there might be 100 of you, 150, 200, 300, depending on the capacity of the hall. But the speaking test is just going to be between you and the examiner only. No other person comes in. Right? For the listening test, you are all going to be given headsets, headphones, everyone. Then an audio would be played, so you would listen and write your answers when you hear them for 40 minutes, covering 40 questions, spread across 4 different sections. Now, the reading test, which lasts for 60 minutes. You're going to be given the passage or reading booklet, which would comprise 3 different sections of passages and other little extracts that will make up the reading passage. So in 60 minutes, you get to answer 40 questions. Right? Then, for the writing test, you're going to be given the writing test question, which would contain both the task 1 and 2. Right? Now, in 60 minutes, you're going to write your task 1 and task 2 within 60 minutes. Now, these are, here you have the division or allotment, the time allotted for each. So you need to be pretty fast in your writing. The minimum you can write is 150 words. You know what minimum is? What does it mean? Perfect. So you shouldn't write less, but you should get up to 150 above, right? Then for the task 2, you will be writing a minimum of 250 words. You can write more, but don't write less. Now, in your writing test, for you, you know the IELTS exam has different purposes. Are you aware? Use them for different things. There is the IELTS test for jobs. There is also the IELTS test for study. There is the IELTS test to reunite with your spouse, perhaps settled in the UK. It depends on what you need it for. So you need to understand what you need or what you are applying for. So you write the appropriate test. So for you, your task 1 would be letter. While your task 2 would be essay. Okay? So when you are giving your question paper, ensure that your task 1 is a letter. And then your task 2, of course, is going to be an essay. No. So you're going to write and complete everything within 60 minutes. 60 minutes is equivalent to what? An hour. That's correct. So in 2 hours, 40 minutes, or roughly 3 hours, you will take on the listening, reading, and writing. Okay? Then after all of that, your speaking test. You will be given a date for your speaking test. Your speaking test can come either before these 3 or after these 3. Do you understand this? So on that day, you will go to the test center. You will meet with an examiner either physically or virtually, whichever template you are assigned, right? So if it is a physical approach, you are going to meet someone in person, and the person would examine you. You would speak all the English you know to the person, right? If it is a virtual, of course, there will be a big screen, and you see someone waiting for you live. It's not like an AI, no, live. So the person would engage you, you speak all the English and the vocabularies that you know to the person, okay? Now, it usually lasts for a period of 10 to 15 minutes, and that's it, you can go, right? For the paper-based, the standard practice has always been your results coming out 13 days after. That 13 days is usually or begins to count from the day you complete your LRW, right? So even if you take on your speaking test after, it doesn't still matter. It is the LRW that counts, right? So that's about the 4 areas of the IELTS test. Do you understand? Okay. Okay, my test begins now. In writing test, there you go. In writing test, how long do you get to write? General, overall, for writing test. How long does it last? 1 hour. Now, within that period of 1 hour, your tasks will be divided into two, right? Task 1 and task 2, right? Your task 1 is what? It is letter. Perfect. Now for letter, how long do you write? 20 minutes. Perfect. What's the minimum number of words you expected to have for your letter?
150. Minimum is 150.
150, correct. Now, this is task 2. Task 2 is called what? An essay. You shouldn't feel it because it's there. Alright. It's an essay. Now, for essay writing, how long do you get to write? 40 minutes. What's the minimum number of words? 250, correct. Thank you. Now let's begin. In essay writing, IELTS examiners expect a number of things from you when you're writing. Nobody is going to penalize you when your writing is bad. No. There is no extra mark awarded to beautiful writing. But no matter how bad your writing appears, you are strongly encouraged to ensure that it is legible. Let whoever that is marking your script be able to read whatever you write. Do you understand this? Now, in your essay writing, you need to understand, first and foremost, that essays are formal writings. They are formal. You understand what I mean by formal? They are official kind of writings. So, you are advised to avoid a number of things. And that leads us to pros and cons. Now here we are going to look at things you should avoid and things you should try to do when you're writing your essay. Number 1, some of the things you should avoid, things to avoid. Okay, so let's begin. These are some of the things you should avoid when you are writing an essay. Very important, avoid them. Alright, but before we continue, please, if you join from the YouTube platform, kindly like this video and always do well to share the link with your friends. Alright? Thank you so much. Now for things to avoid, look at the word here, like. When do we use the word like? Some people use it when they want to cite an example, right? Like Johannesburg, like in IELTS. Like is an informal expression. So instead of saying like, use such as. Do you understand this? Rather than saying like, use such as. That's formal. Here we have the word help. Help is an informal expression, is an informal word. So rather than saying help, you should make use of assist, support, aid. Right? So it should be avoided. We also have this word kids. It's very informal and a lot of people make use of that word kids. I have 3 kids. I have a kid. A kid is a baby goat. Right? That's the formal meaning. Baby goat. So when you call your child a kid, you are telling yourself, I have a baby goat. Right? So it's informal. Your child is your child. That's the formal word for humans. So make use of the word children or child. Infants. The word infants is also used to refer to children, younger children. That's fine to an extent. But children must remain children. It is a formal word for baby monkey, infant. It is also a terminology in the military for younger recruits, infants. So avoid this guy. Words. A lot of people use words as a substitute for children. You find this very peculiar if you deal with private schools. They use words when they are addressing the parents or guardians. Now, words is an informal expression for children, but it is a formal expression for a department in the hospital. Is that correct? You have the children word, you have the emergency word, you have all of those words, right? It is also a department in the prison word, right? It is also a section of, like in Nigeria, we have the local government, we have the state, we have the federal. So the local government is divided into different wards. So it's informal when using for children. Avoid it. Now, offsprings is another expression or choice of words people use for children. It is to be avoided. It could be offspring of a plant. It could be offspring of an animal. So anything that has to do with children, please respect children as children. That's the formal expression for that. For all of those 4 guys there, they also call their children kids, and they're happy. Now, acronyms. What are acronyms? Do you know what acronyms are? Acronyms are ideas or names that are formed by using the first letter of the original names. Acronyms are concepts or ideas or names formed by picking the initials, the first letter of each original word to form the concept. For instance, IELTS. IELTS is an acronym. Acronym for what? International English Language Testing System. Right? Now, in essay writing, you are to avoid acronyms. Every word you must write has to be written in full. Right? The only time your acronym can be valid and accepted is if you have established the full meaning in a previous sentence. Then, for avoidance of repetition, you can then use the acronym. Do you understand this? Now, you are strongly advised to avoid repetitions in IELTS. It will drop your mark. Right? So, IELTS expects you to show off a lot of vocabularies. That's where English comes in IELTS exam, vocabularies. Right? So, you should avoid as much as possible repeating same words in every sentence. Avoid it. So if you have a major word you want to express in a sentence and you've exhausted that word, you want to bring in that same word in another sentence, look for the synonym, the substitute word that means the same. That's perfect. Right? So you must avoid repetitions. Now let's look at the next ambiguous words. Do you know what ambiguous words are? These are words that have multiple meanings. Right? Words that have multiple meanings. So IELTS says it is better to use a word that is advanced and very precise in the context you are trying to pass the message. Use such word rather than using a word that has multiple meanings. Because you might pick a word that has multiple meaning and use it to make a sentence. Then the examiner marking your script will use the other meaning of that word to read meaning to what you've written. So in that situation, it will not make any sense to the examiner, right? You've lost that mark. So you should use words that are very direct in whatever situation you are trying to express. Okay? So you want to see some examples of ambiguous words? Like, good. Like this guy. Right? You have so many of them. You have words such as this guy. How do you pronounce this guy? Lead, right? Lead. What does it mean? To pursue, to lead. Yeah, okay, yeah, I understand the perspective you're seeing. Yes, to go after a particular thing, right? Yes, yeah, it's a lead for you, right? It also means to be in charge of something while others follow. To lead a people, a group, towards achieving something or towards whatever purpose or mission, right? It also means that substance in a pencil. The pencil we use for writing. That substance that writes is called lead. Do you understand this? So this guy has other meanings, right? The past tense of lead is what? Past tense of lead is what? When you want to use this word to say what you did last year. Huh? No, I led them last year. I was a tour guide last year, so I led a group of teenagers around maybe a hill. So led, this guy, past tense of lead, led. A type of light. A type of light is also called what? LED. Is that correct? So it's ambiguous. IELTS says, give us words that are very precise in the context you are trying to pass. Okay? Now the next is turgid words. Turgid words. Turgid words are high-sounding words, heavy-sounding words, words that appear very heavy. When you hear it, you're like, oh my God, what does that mean? Right? So you want to hear something like, have you heard about Gagatuangaga? Have you heard about, okay, you know about metamorphosis, right? Metamorphose. Maybe. Okay, you know about transubstantiation. These are high-sounding words that you don't use every day, right? So in IELTS, in as much as you are expected to show off advanced expressions, you need to be careful not to bring a word that will pose some level of difficulty for the examiner to read meaning into what you have written. So go for words that are very precise. Then you should avoid slangs. Avoid slangs. You know slangs, right? When you are saying, you know this guy? Gonna. What does it mean? What's that? I'm gonna be there. You know what it means? I'm gonna be there means I'm gonna be there, right? But you know what this slang means? It means do you understand that? It's a slang. I'm gonna be there, I'm going to be there. Right? So IELTS says, don't give us slangs, give us full expressions. Okay? Then, because of space, L, because of space, that is what we call contractions. Contractions should come under. Now IELTS says avoid contractions. Contractions will make you lose a lot of marks. Do you know what contractions are? You know. I'm very sure you know. Okay, so right here we have this expression. I can't make it to the lecture hall today because I couldn't sleep last night. Now, with this expression, you're going to lose mark. Do you know why? Because you applied contractions in this simple sentence. Where are the contractions? Can't, couldn't. IELTS says we don't need these guys in an essay. They are informal. IELTS says we want you to show off the full words. Cannot. Could not. That's what you're supposed to write. Please, do you understand? So, in all of that, IELTS expects you to show off a number of advanced expressions while writing your essay. Please, it will help you. Now, what are you supposed to show off? What are the things you should go for as against things you should avoid? First, you are expected to show off advanced expressions. So, what does this mean? This is where you write or make a sentence, and in your sentence, your vocabularies are advanced. The sentence structure is also advanced, right? So how can you achieve advanced expressions? You can achieve this by having a number of things. One, building vocabularies. Two, introducing linking words. Then lastly, showing off sequencers. These are things you want to look at. Vocabularies. You know what that means? They are dictions, choice of words that help you to achieve your expressions, right? When working on your essay, the type of vocabularies you should bring in, IELTS says, avoid overly or commonly used words. Avoid them. Overly used words or commonly used words, avoid them. Do you understand this? So they want to show off advanced words. So you need to build good vocabularies to be able to show off advanced words. And while you're building vocabularies, please work on synonyms. So when you find a word, when you find an advanced word, try to get the synonyms of that word. So when you find the synonym of that word or synonyms of that word, you have added more words, right? Apart from the original words, you've gotten their synonyms. Now, when you get the synonyms of such words, you are strongly expected to find out how that word and the synonyms can be used, both in the written English and spoken English. They are two different things. Spoken English is different from written English. So if you use your spoken English in your written English, you're going to have a problem. Like that expression, I'm going to be there, is a spoken English. And it's correct. Right? It's correct. But you cannot write, I'm going to be there. You cannot. You should write, I'm going to be there. Because that's a written version. Right? So you're going to build your vocabularies, work on your synonyms, understand the applications for both the written and the spoken English. Then once that is being achieved, you need to look at linking words. What are linking words? Do you know? Linking words. Exactly. Words that connect or join two or more sentences together to become one. Words that join or connect two or more sentences together to become one. It will help you to achieve advanced expression. IELTS says avoid short sentences. Avoid them. So you're going to use linking words to make your sentences longer. Right? So let's look at some examples of linking words. Some of the examples of linking words would be, however, because is okay, let's come on. However, whereas. So examples of this guy, you have however, whereas, meanwhile, although, while, contrarily, on the other hand. Okay, let's understand something. How do we apply linking words when you're writing? How can you apply it? Linking words should come in when you're writing after expressing your first idea. Instead of putting full stop, you should bring in comma. When you bring in comma, then you write your linking word. After the linking word, another comma should come in. Do you understand this? Of course, when you're writing this linking word, it's not going to be capital H because it's in the middle of a sentence, right? So it's going to be small letter H. Do you understand this? Now, you also need to understand the situations or scenarios when you can apply these linking words. It's not just going to be you bringing in vocabularies. No. The vocabularies you should bring in should align with the situation you are expressing in writing. So if you have established a positive information and you want to counter that information with a negative, you don't use however, but you can use whereas, you can use contrarily, you can use meanwhile. Do you understand? You are opposing or contradicting what you have established in the previous information. Do you understand this? So that's how to apply these guys. Make use of these guys when you're writing. It will help you to achieve compound and complex sentences with ease. Okay, let's go to sequencers. What are sequencers? What are sequencers? Do you have an idea? Alright. Sequencers are words or phrases. Sequencers are words or phrases that are used to either begin a paragraph. There are words or phrases that can be used to either begin a paragraph or introduce an additional point. Or introduce an additional point in a paragraph. Taken? So, sequencers help you to place your ideas in a paragraph. They help you to place your ideas. So, when you want to begin in your essay writing, when you want to begin to discuss the points, you can start by saying, first and foremost, you introduce the points, talk about it, then full stop. Then another point you want to add to it can then be furthermore, or additionally. These are examples of sequencers. So, let's talk about examples of sequencers. First and foremost, first and foremost. First and foremost. Okay, so these are some of the examples of sequencers that will help you to achieve advanced expressions, right? So you need these guys when you are writing, you need them. So it will help you. Okay, so aside that, let's introduce the next thing, which is yardsticks. Right. So let's look at yardsticks with which examiners evaluate your essay. Now, when you write an essay, of course, that essay question will be given to the next persons or other persons writing for jobs. The same question. But the way you would interpret the questions, the way you're going to tackle the question will be absolutely different from every other person. Likewise, the other guys. Everyone will have different perspectives and choice of words, right? So because yours is different, hers is different, his is different, other person's approaches are also different. IELTS now uses these yardsticks to evaluate everyone. So the first thing right there is what we call the task achievement. Task achievement is your ability to completely respond to the question or questions asked. So when you are given a task, and the task requires you to give a list or to give a certain number of points, you should be able to get up to that number. If you write less, you're losing mark. But you can write up to that number, right? So when you are able to completely respond to all the questions asked, you're going to be considered for some marks on task achievements. Please, do you understand this? Right. Now let's look at task cohesion. Cohesion is your ability to understand the question. So when a question is given to you and you are instructed or advised to begin, first thing first, you need to study the question and interpret the question correctly. That's your task cohesion. Now your task coherence means because you have understood the question, you now need to write to solve that question following the specific instructions. So your writing or solving of the question would be in line with whatever the instruction demands. But if you drift away from the question, you are losing mark. Right? So you need to understand that when you are given a question, show that you've understood it by way of sticking to the question while solving it. If you understand the question, but when you're writing, you now move away from the idea, examiner would not know that you actually understood it before, but you wrote off point. Please. So you need to really understand and stick to it. Now, lexical resources. Lexical resources means vocabularies. So you need to work on your vocabularies. And I also said, build your synonyms. Lastly, we have the grammatical range and accuracies. For grammatical range, it's simply talking about the type of sentences you are able to construct. IELTS does not appreciate so much if you give them short, brief sentences. No. They want to see you show off more of your in-depth understanding of English. So you do that by establishing good grammatical range, right? Then accuracy is right here. Simply means when you construct a compound or complex sentence, for instance, you should ensure that the subjects in the sentences align with the tenses. So if you're talking about something that has happened in the past, for instance, you're going to use what type of tenses? past tenses. That's what you use to establish what has happened in the past. And when you're talking about what has happened in the past, and you're making use of past tenses, if it's a plural subject, you should make sure you are using plural indicators. They were there. Past tense. They, plural. Were, plural. Not they was there. Right? So these are things IELTS examiners look out for when they are going through your script. Okay, so right here we have the formula for writing an essay. This formula helps you to easily achieve the 250 words. Easily. It also helps you to achieve task achievements, because the formula would help you to structure an essay following the IELTS standard. Right? So here is the formula for writing an essay. This formula has its basis on P1, P2, P3, and P4. The P's represent paragraphs. So how many paragraphs do you think you should have in your essay? Pardon?
For one introduction, two body paragraphs, and one conclusion.
Nice. So that's what you're to have. You're to have the paragraph 1, which is the introduction. Then the paragraphs 2 and 3, you see that they have the same thread, right? That's the body paragraphs. The body of the essay. Then your 4th paragraph is your conclusion. Right? Now, in your paragraph 1, there are 3 major things you want to hold on to. There are 3 major things you want to work very well on. Right? So the first one is what we call the paraphrase. What is this paraphrase? It is about you copying the question onto your answer paper as the beginning of your paragraph 1. But you don't copy it word for word. You don't copy it verbatim. No. You rephrase the question in a way that it's still having the same meaning as the original question. Do you understand this? So you have to paraphrase the question. That's the first thing you begin with in your essay. And that's the beginning of your first paragraph. Then after paraphrasing the question, you look at the question and decide on what to do according to the instruction. Look at the question again and decide on what path you would like to take depending on what the instruction says. Let's look at it for instance. If the instruction says some persons prefer to study abroad because it is the best way to acquire global knowledge in that area of specialism. Some persons prefer to study abroad because it is the best way to acquire global knowledge in the area of specialism. That's all. And then the instruction says, do you agree or disagree? Give your opinion. Some persons prefer to study abroad because it is considered to be the best way to acquire global knowledge in that area of specialism. Full stop. instruction or question. Do you agree or disagree? Give your opinion. Now, in such question, first you need to copy the question. So you paraphrase when the question says, some persons prefer to study abroad because it is the best, it's considered to be the best way to acquire global knowledge. Then, in that area of specialism, my paraphrasing would be, a number of individuals cherish carrying out their studies in foreign lands because it is seen as the most effective way to acquire a universal knowledge in that area of interest or discipline. I've paraphrased the question, right? Now, for these thesis or background statements, I would simply decide whether I should support that idea or I should stand against it. It says, do you agree or disagree? So if you want to agree, that means you are in support that yes, people study abroad because they feel it's the best way to acquire global knowledge, right? If I want to disagree with it, it means I have contrary idea about acquiring global knowledge without necessarily studying abroad. Do you understand what I'm explaining? So if I feel I have better points to agree, then I would say in this essay I will be writing to absolutely agree with the issue raised above. That's my background statement. In this essay I will be writing to confidently and absolutely agree with the issue raised above. What's the issue above? That people prefer to study abroad because it helps them to acquire knowledge, right? So I want to agree because I feel I have points to support that faction, right? But if I have alternative or contrary points, that means I'm not supporting them. So my thesis background statement will be, in this essay, I'll be writing to absolutely disagree with the above points. Is it? Do you understand? Good. So that will be my thesis background statement. Do you have a question? Now, if you make a background statement, do not end it with a full stop. End it with a semicolon. When you make your thesis or background statement, do not end it with a full stop, rather end with a semicolon. Do you understand? Now, after your semicolon, you need to bring in your stance. We have talked about paraphrase, we have talked about thesis background statement. Now, the last thing here in your paragraph 1 is your stance. What is your stance? Give your opinion. Right? Remember, the question says, some people believe studying abroad is the best way to acquire global knowledge in their area of specialism. Do you agree or disagree? Give your own opinion. So we have talked about others. It is now time to give our opinion. So your opinion could either agree or disagree, or you balance the two sides. Is it clear to you? So once you give your opinion, you continue, give your opinion, write your opinion, and then full stop.
My opinion is like why I agree and why I do not agree with the statement, right?
Sort of, yes, sort of. Your opinion can be, although studying abroad can give a great level of global exposure and in-depth understanding of the preferred choice of course. However, it is also possible that studying it in your home country will give you better leverage for practical exposure and other benefits. That's my opinion. Do you understand? That's my opinion. So when you give your opinion, you end it with a full stop, and that's it. You're good. Now your paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. If your thesis background statement says you would write to agree, can you remember? If your thesis or background statement establishes that you're going to be writing to agree with the issue raised above, that means your paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, you are generating 2 different points to show your agreement. Do you understand this? That means your paragraphs 2 and 3, you are to generate 2 different points, but both will be showing your agreement. But if your thesis or background statement establishes that you're going to be writing to disagree, that means your paragraphs 2 and 3 will be showing 2 different points to disagree. Please, do you understand this? Then, when you establish a point for either agreement or disagreement, for instance, you need to give detailed explanation of that point, expatiate on that point. So, this is what we call topic sentence. The point that begins your paragraph 2 is what we call topic sentence, TS. Then the BP, where you are explaining in detail about the topic sentence, will become your body paragraph. Body paragraph. The topic, whatever idea you want to raise to show that you either agree or disagree, depending on whatever statements you've written in your introduction. So that comes here, bring in an idea, a particular point or theme or tag or heading that you're going to write as topic sentence. Do you understand it? So when you write that topic sentence as the beginning of your second paragraph, you then begin to explain the topic in detail. So that would constitute the body paragraph, BP. Now when you're writing your body paragraph, please don't just rely or don't restrict your body paragraph to spellings of words all through. No. When you are writing your words, spellings, using vocabularies, advanced vocabularies to be precise, you should also consider and factor in location, year, date, amount, number of persons. You are talking about percentage, factor them in by yourself. So, IELTS does not expect that what you're writing should be factual. No. You can be fictional, create. So, you need to create an idea and you need to establish or explain that idea in detail. So, when you are giving your explanations, bring in name of person or name of researcher or a group of researchers led by a particular head. You give a name. Whether or not that name exists, IELTS is not concerned about that. Talk about the year. So when you're writing the year, you should talk about date, month, and year. So the day has to be in figure. Maybe 7th May, spell your May in full. 1948, write it in figure. 1948. Right? Over 80 students were involved in the questionnaire or research or whatever thing they did. 80 in figure, 8 and 0. Right? Out of the 80 students, the research showed that at the end of the whole thing, about 67% of the students, you write your 67% in figure. Don't do spellings all through. No. Factor in figures. Right? Although the research proved to be quite expensive as it cost the team of researchers over $25,000. Right? $25,000 in figure. Please, you understand this? So factor all of that in. Then you cite an example. Give an example of a situation that is in line with your explanations. The example must not be real life. No, you can create one. Right? Your paragraph 3, you create another point different from the one in paragraph 2, a different point. That's your topic sentence. Then explain it. That's your body paragraph. Then give an example to buttress it. Please, you understand this? Then your 4th paragraph, which is the conclusion, you can either conclude by starting your 4th paragraph with a word conclusively, or you can choose to say summarily. You can as well decide to say or go by in light of the above. Remember, sequencers. The sequencers has conclusively, that's summary, it has in light of the above. Remember, we said that sequencers are used to start a paragraph. So your 4th paragraph can begin with either summarily or conclusively or in light of the above. So if you want to use conclusively or summarily, it means when you write any of these, conclusively or summarily, comma. Studying a specific or studying certain courses abroad does not only expose you to whatever topic you wrote here, it also allows you to achieve, you also talk about the second topic. Do you understand this? So when you are using conclusively or summarily, you are going to give hints or recap of those topics you talked about in paragraphs 2 and 3. If you are using conclusively or summarily, you are to give the synopsis or recap of those topics talked about in paragraphs 2 and 3 before you introduce your stance. If you are using conclusively or summarily, you are required to give the synopsis of the topics you discussed or talked about in paragraphs 2 and 3 before you now bring in your stance. Now, this stance you're to bring in is already written in paragraph 1, right? That's the opinion. So after saying conclusively or summarily, studying certain professional courses abroad does not only expose you to the global practices, but also helps you to learn from the best hands or best resource persons in a state-of-the-art learning facility. Therefore, in my professional opinion, I strongly believe that blah, 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 whatever opinion you wrote in your paragraph 1, you're bringing it down to paragraph 4. But you're going to rephrase it a little. However, if you choose to use in light of the above, in light of the above does not require you to talk about the topic sentences at all. So if you're using in light of the above, what you need to do next is bring down the opinion. In light of the above, I therefore recommend strongly that in as much as studying blah blah blah, whatever opinion you have in your paragraph 1, you bring it down in a paraphrased way. Do you understand? Which do you prefer? The conclusively, summarily, or in light of the book? These two up, right? Because it gives you more words. Exactly. Exactly. So for you to use in light of the above, you should make sure that your paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 have given you 250 words already. That's when you use this guy, because this guy is very straightforward. But if you have looked through your paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 and you are not sure if you have written up to 250 words, please go with this guy. So when you write this guy, you begin to give the summary of the topic sentences, and as you're doing that, you are buying more words before you bring in your standards. Do you understand? Okay, so this is how the essay would go. We shall go through the processes of breaking down the formula. I will teach you how paraphrasing is done in IELTS. Do you know, do we still have time?